central theme of this lesson is the relationship between microbes and our lives. Normally, we tend to associate these small organisms only with infections and inconvenience such as spoiled food. However, the majority of microorganisms actually help maintain the balance of life in our environment. In the following study, we will learn about microorganisms. Chapter 1: The Microbial World and You. This chapter is an introduction to microbiology and kind of highlights a lot of the topics we will be discussed over this course. First of all, let's know about microbes in our lives. Microorganisms, also called microbes, are minute living things that we can't see without using a microscope. It turns out that there is an incredible diverse world of microscopic organisms that exist virtually everywhere. You can imagine they are living right on our skin and respiratory tract. They live in the sea and called the red tide. They are in the soil in our gardens. They are even in the air that surrounds us. That may sound a little alarming, but don't worry, most of these organisms are quite harmless. Here is an overview of the main types of microorganisms: bacteria, archaea, fungi, protozoa, algae, helminths, and viruses. Now, we'll talk about the history of microbiology. Bacterial ancestors were the first living cells to appear on Earth. For most of human history, people knew little about the true causes, transmission, and the effective treatment of disease. Anton van Leeuwenhoek, a cloth merchant turned biologist, was probably the first to observe live microorganisms. He spent much of his spare time constructing simple microscopes. His microscope composed of double convex glass lenses held between two silver plates. His microscopes could magnify about 50 to 300 times. He made detailed drawings of organisms he found in rainwater, feces, and material scraped from teeth. After Leeuwenhoek discovered the previously invisible world of microorganisms, the scientific community became interested in the origin of these tiny living things. From the earliest times, people had believed in spontaneous generation, that living organisms could develop magically. It took a long time and a lot of experiments between a lot of scientists to actually disprove spontaneous generation. Louis Pasteur was involved in this work. He produced the swan neck flasks and finally resolved the issue. From the results, Pasteur reasoned that microbes in the air were the agents responsible for contaminating non-living matter. Meanwhile, a group of French merchants asked Pasteur to find out why wine and beer thawed. He eventually suggested a method for heating the wines to destroy the undesirable microbes. The process is now called pasteurization. He also had this idea that microbes cause the disease. So he developed what is now called the germ theory, basically that a certain germ causes a certain disease. Robert Koch is a German physician. The first proof that bacteria cause disease came from him in 1876. He identified the cause of anthrax, tuberculosis, and cholera. Thus, he established Koch's postulates, a sequence of experimental steps for directly relating specific microbe to a specific disease. during cohort studies on bacterial disease, it became necessary to isolate suspected bacterial pathogens in pure culture. Koho and his associates had developed several important tools, such as agar, nutrient pros, nutrient agar, and petri dish. These developments directly stimulate process in all areas of microbiology. As mentioned earlier, the microbes are often associated with negative connotation to them. Only a minority of all microorganisms are pathogenic. The vast majority of microbes benefit humans, other animals, and plants in many ways. The following sections outline some of these beneficial activities. The chemical elements carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur, and phosphorus are essential for life and abundant, but not necessarily in forms that organisms can use. Microorganisms are primarily responsible for converting these elements into forms that plants and animals can use. The commercial use of microorganisms to produce some common foods and chemicals are called biotechnology. In the last several years, biotechnology has undergone a revolution through the advent of recombinant DNA technology to expand the potential of bacteria, viruses, and yeast and other fungi as miniature biochemical factories. Recombinant DNA techniques have been used to produce a number of natural proteins, vaccines, and enzymes. A very exciting and important outcome of recombinant DNA techniques is gene therapy, inserting a missing gene or replacing a defective one in human cells. By using microbial rather than chemical insect control, farmers can avoid harming the environment. The bacteria produce protein crystals that are toxic to the digestive system of the insects. The microbial toxin gene has been inserted into some plants to make them insect resistant. Sewage treatment plants combine various physical processes with the action of beneficial microbes to remove the undesirable materials and harmful microorganisms from sewage. Left behind are liquid and organic materials. Bioremediation refers to using microbes to clean up pollutants and toxic wastes produced by various industrial processes. The toxin can be removed from underground wells, chemical spills, and oil spills, such as a massive oil spill from a British petroleum offshore drilling rig in the Gulf of Mexico in 2010. Some microbes called pathogens, which lives in or on the body of a larger organism called the host, and derives most of its requirements from that host. A pathogen's action can damage the host through infection and disease. Humanity is plagued by nearly 2,000 different microbes that can cause various types of disease. Infectious disease still devastate human populations worldwide, despite significant strides in understanding and treating them. The most recent estimate from the World Health Organization point to around 10 billion infections of all types across the world every year. There are more infections than people because many people acquire more than one infection. Infectious diseases are also among the most common causes of death in much of humanity, and they still kill a significant percentage of the U.S. population. This table depicts the 10 top causes of death per year in the United States and worldwide. The worldwide death toll from infections is about 12 million people per year. In this figure, you can see the top infections causes of death displayed in a different way. Note that many of these infections are treatable with drugs or preventable with vaccines. So that is a brief introduction to the microorganisms and microbiology. Let's move forward to learn more about microbes, microbial infection, microbial beneficial roles, and so on. Thank you for your attention.